Hello and welcome everyone to the second instalment of the three-part webinar series, Your Time to Shine. So the first session of the series took place last week and it dove into maximizing the effectiveness of customer success teams, different tips and tricks. So if you didn't manage to check that out, we highly recommend that you circle back after the webinar today and check it out because it is available on demand. So today's episode is going to be looking at tech tips to fight customer churn. And we've got a panel of experts here that I will introduce you to in a moment. But I'm your chair for today, Shanice Henry, Editor-in-Chief of CX Network. So in terms of the topic that we're looking at today, for many companies in their mission to grow revenue from existing customers and boost loyalty through positive brand experiences, this mission is greatly sabotaged by capacity issues within customer success teams. So the high customer to account manager ratio can trigger poor customer experiences, low adoption rates, bad reviews, and ultimately leading to churn from customers and sometimes also your employees, because this can breed a really, really stubborn and tough environment to work in. So to help customer success teams accomplish their goals, organizations are tapping into a range of tools and technologies, but many brands are asking themselves, are we sure that we are implementing the right solutions to help scale our customer success team? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So we've got a panel of experts that are going to dive into the do's and don'ts of customer success tech stacks to boost customer loyalty and also employee productivity. So before we dive in and introduce you to our panelists, a couple of housekeeping reminders from me. This is a very interactive webinar. We want to hear from you. Do you agree with everything? Do you disagree? What have been your experiences in the customer experience industry? Do you have any comments or particular questions that you want to be addressed? What we'd like you to do is to pop those into the chat boxes at the bottom of your screens. And make sure you click submit as well, otherwise the message won't come through to us. Once you do that, we'll be able to see the question or comment on our side, and we'll make sure that we address those in the Q&A section of the session, which will be at the end of the webinar today. And likewise, any technical issues, enter those into the same chat box, and a member of the CX Network team will be in touch to help you troubleshoot any issues that you're facing. Another little tip is that all of the widgets on your screen can be rearranged and dragged around, so do have those orientated however you would like them to so that you're most comfortable with us today. And all that's left is for me to introduce you to our experts for today. So on our panel, we have Victoria van Antwerpen Spencer, who is the Director of Customer Experience and Strategy at Oracle Digital EMEA. And also from Oracle Digital EMEA, we have Kay Tribeck, who's the Customer Strategy Program Lead. We've also got on the panel Conversica's Head of Product Marketing, Sonny Dasgupta, and Conversica's Senior Director of Customer Success, Erica Hansen. So it's a true pleasure to have you all with us today. We've got lots of expertise on our panel. So great and glad to hear from your insights. So Sonny, over to you.
Thank you. So again, as Shanice mentioned, welcome to Your Time to Shine, a three-part webinar series. Today is the second webinar of the series, which is about technology tips, tech tips to fight customer churn. As Shanice mentioned, I'm Sonny Dasgupta. I do product marketing at Conversica. I lead product marketing at Conversica. Today with me, I also have another Conversican, Erica Hansen, who is our Senior Director of Customer Success. But what makes me absolutely, totally ecstatic is that with us, we have today two expert speakers, Victoria and Kay from Oracle Digital. Oracle is one of our valued customer, and Victoria and Kay are really deeply embedded in customer experience and customer success strategies at Oracle. But also a special thanks to both of them, as Victoria is joining us from Amsterdam and Kay is joining us from Dubai, late hours. So we really appreciate both of them joining us here today. Before we get started, I just wanted to give you a sense of how today's webinar is going to flow, the structure of the webinar. At first, I'll spend a few minutes talking about who is Conversica and what we do. This will be great context as you listen to Erica, Kay, and Victoria's part of the presentation. And then next, I'll spend a minute or two talking about why customer success is so important today. And then I'm going to hand it over to Erica, who will talk about some of the key challenges that a customer success management team is facing today. And then Erica will launch into an engaging conversation with Victoria and Kay about how Oracle is solving some of these challenges using technology solution. And last but not least, we are going to, at the end, open it up for Q&A. So who is Conversica? Conversica is a pioneer and a leader in conversational AI solutions. We have been doing this for a long time, having launched our first AI assistant over 12 years ago. We have been growing ever since. Our Conversica AI assistants drive better engagement, and better customer engagement drives better retention and higher revenue. Conversica AI assistants help organizations attract, acquire, and grow customers at scale across the entire customer revenue cycle. So think of our AI assistants as digital team members in your team that would work alongside you, your human business professionals. So acting as a digital team member, it can engage in a human-like two-way conversations to determine the next best action at scale, whether that is turning leads into sales meetings, building healthier pipeline, or in this case, gauging interest to renew or expand product usages, politely but persistently collecting overdue payments. The bottom line is that our AI assistants augment your team to do what people can't do or don't do well. So we have the pleasure of serving some of the best B2B and B2C organizations across multiple industries. Today we have Oracle with us, a really well-known technology company. We have many other tech companies that we are supporting, like Cisco, SAP, as you can see. We are also in the telecom industry supporting customers, for example, T-Mobile, AT&T. In the automotive industry, we have many customers, including one of the pretty well-known one is the Lithia Group in the US, very well-known. We also have over 25 professional sports teams, like the New York Yankees, Dodgers, many NHL and NBA teams, along with key higher education institutions and some of the top health and wellness companies in the US. As you can see, many organizations are benefiting today from augmenting their workforce with Conversica AI assistants. So now let me spend a few minutes talking about why customer success is so important today. Listen, if I started this session by saying COVID created a tremendous economic uncertainty, you would say, yeah, tell me something that I don't know. But I'm sure you have noticed that even during this time, during COVID, the stock market is at an all-time high. Dow Jones Industrial Average, NASDAQ, S&P 500, they're all pretty much doing great. You just recently, you have Airbnb, Snowflake, DoorDash just went public. Salesforce.com bought Slack for $28 billion. NVIDIA acquired ARM for $40 billion. So yes, while there is economic uncertainty, it's also not all doom and gloom. Money is available only for the right kind of investment. And the key is that you have to justify in this difficult time return on investment before you can get access to some of that capital. So now think about it. Where are you going to get a higher return on your investment. What's the lowest hanging fruit for you? Of course, it's your existing customers. Right now, every business is focused on customer retention and customer expansion. Why is that? Because it is 8 to 10 times more expensive to find a new customer than to keep and grow an existing one. Why is that? Because acquiring a new customer is expensive revenue, but retaining and expanding an existing customer is lean revenue. So as you can see, what this chart is showing here is that the cost to acquire $100 of revenue from selling to a new customer is going to cost you $110 in the first year, because you have to, of course, pay for sales salary, commission, marketing expense, overhead, etc. The bottom line is that you have a net loss in year 1. But in year 2, if you can retain that customer, then 85% of that revenue is pure profit. And customer success is key to retaining and growing your customers. So customer success has become the real profit center for your business, for every business. And that's why customer success management is so important today for every business. But it's also easier said than done. There are challenges, and I'm going to pass the baton to Erica to talk about some of the challenges in customer success management. So Erica, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Sunny. You know, one of the silver linings for me over the past year is that I've had the ability to connect virtually with a lot of CS customer success professionals. And in doing so, Sunny, I've heard a lot of those same challenges that you were teeing up there, and customer success management has become so much more important. So today, I want to talk with you about some of those challenges that I'm seeing in customer success and some of the things that I'm hearing as I'm connecting with my colleagues, peers, and even some of our customers in the same space. The last year has further heightened a lot of these challenges, and my goal over the next few minutes is to bring them to the forefront for all of you. And then we can hear from Oracle about how they're meeting these challenges head on. And also, I should say, as an aside, one of the biggest parts of my role is to be solution focused. So I'm going to try my best to not start solving each of these challenges as I reveal them. So touching on some of these challenges here, the first is the inability to scale. And this is really the failure to reach out to all of our customers. This could be due to low staffing and not having enough customer success managers to really be able to touch all those customers. It can also be difficult to hire and retain quality customer success managers. Could be high turnover for whatever reason. There's a lot of work that goes into continuing to grow that team to scale. And then juggling multiple tasks resulting in customers not getting the attention that they really deserve. And then the inconsistent customer experience. This can be lack of frequent customer engagement, which can result in low customer satisfaction scores, lower than you'd like NPS scores. Some of this has to do with forgetting to remind customers about upcoming renewals, and then also not asking customers for feedback, or potentially not even having enough time or resources to be able to get that feedback from customers. And then low product adoption is another huge area. If your customers aren't adopting the product within a timely manner, the likelihood of them continuing to succeed or even see ROI is really low. And then finally, unexpected churn and missed expansion. So there are a lot of times when you discover too late that a customer is going to churn. You may not have any risk indicators or really understand at what point a customer may be churning. So part of this too is the failure to help customers achieve those outcomes, not really addressing where there's potential for ROI for them, or not even asking what their goals are. And then part of the unexpected churn may come from damaged relationships with customers. It could just take one thing to set them off. So I want to talk a little bit more about these challenges. And I'm guessing that you can relate to one or several of these challenges. But if not, I'm going to try to do my best to bring them to life for you. So the inability to scale, nurturing relationships with every customer is as much a necessity as it is a pain point for a customer success manager. When your customer base is smaller, it's still manageable to keep interacting with every customer, but as it grows bigger, it becomes a lot more challenging to keep that personal touch with everyone. We all want to see happy customers and successful customers and have them be like the customers you see in this picture. We want them to soar, but we all know that it's not that easy. Maybe you're growing so fast that you can't maintain that same level of connection with all of your customers. Even if you're hiring, sometimes customer growth can outpace the ability to hire and train quickly. And if you're experiencing rapid growth, good for you, or if you've experienced high CSM turnover, which happens as well, you know what I mean here. It takes a lot of energy to hire and train and retain quality customer success managers, not to mention all of the work that those customer success managers invest in building relationships with your customers. Years ago, when I first started in customer success management, I was fortunate enough to be working with a company that was growing really, really quickly and far outpacing the size of our customer success team. And growth is really exciting, but in the moment, the challenge with the growth, I hadn't experienced it before in my career, and I was not only responsible for hiring a bigger team to support that growth, but we had also promised our customers amazing service, and I didn't have a team to deliver that. So I was in a bit of a bind trying to figure out how I was going to hire this team, how I was going to keep our customers happy that we had just signed. And I was in the midst of hiring, and the small team I did have, and I were trying to manage a customer base that was triple the size we had mere weeks earlier. So as you can imagine, we were juggling multiple tasks, and customers weren't getting the attention that we used to pride ourselves on. And this was a really pivotal point, I think, in my career. And this happens regularly, right? Like, how do you have that predictability in your business and understand what's happening, and at the same time maintain those level of connections with your customers? This is a point in which pivotal points along the journey that a customer must hit to be successful could often be missed. And if those tasks get missed, it can lead to a less than optimum customer experience. Speaking of inconsistent customer experiences, I want to share a tale with you of a customer and two customer success managers. So let's say that the customer starts off with a customer success manager that is amazing and on top of her game. She's accountable, she's a strong relationship builder, she truly cares about showing her customer results, and she consistently impresses her customers with her product knowledge and level of service. And she's often going above and beyond, providing everything from business strategy, technical support, and really giving this customer white glove experience. And her customers love her, they respect her, they never want to change CSMs. But then that customer success manager gets a promotion because she's incredible at her job and she's deserving of moving up in her career. And she does all the right things. She seamlessly transitions it to a new customer success manager. And the new customer success manager is equally accountable, engages with customers regularly, and is agreeable and friendly to customers, but may not solve the technical challenges or may have to pull in additional resources, and doesn't ask as many questions about the business goals all up, not just with the product. And the customer, as you can imagine, starts to wonder, why is this so different? And this customer expectations were set with the first customer success manager, and in their experience, they weren't getting the same experience with the second customer success manager. And I wish that this was consistent all the way through, but it does happen frequently. In another scenario, customers inconsistently can engage with a company. So for example, some customers may be more demanding than others. And I imagine this happens to you as well, where you have a customer, let's say Susie from Acme Corporation, calls you, texts you, emails you daily. She naturally is going to get more attention because she's consistently reaching out to you. And if Susie is taking up your time, and what are your other customers doing? Are they waiting for you? Are they moving on to other things? It naturally presents itself with a situation where Susie's going to get more attention and some of your other customers aren't. And we know that lack of frequent customer engagement results in lower customer satisfaction scores and lower net promoter scores. And sometimes it can only take one event that can throw a customer off course, and they provide a lower score in the moment, or worse, they unexpectedly churn. Another challenge here is forgetting to remind customers about the renewal. In my experience, customers like to have an understanding of where things are at with their current subscription. They like to feel in control of their account standings. And by continuing to inform them of those dates and keeping all of the renewal information top of mind for them, they generally appreciate that transparency. But the opposite is true tenfold. If they feel blindsided by the renewal, or if they haven't been contacted until the renewal time, the renewal could be in jeopardy. Just like this cartoon here illustrates, customers generally aren't a fan of surprises. Another key piece here, which isn't likely new to any of you, is low product adoption. Or even worse, customers not seeing the return on the investment. They invest a lot in you and in your products and services. And if for any reason that customer or contact at the organization signed up and then moved into a different role, or the day-to-day user isn't bought in, and the product adoption really suffers from the beginning. And thus getting the product to adopt, or the customer rather, to adopt the product can be an ongoing challenge. Unexpected churn and missed expansions. This is definitely a challenge that gets experienced a lot in customer success. The one thing I want to call out here, and hopefully you are aware of this, happy and successful customers are not the same. I hear a lot of people in customer success and sales leaders too talk about happy customers. And it's certainly good to have happy people, and happy customers are part of that. There's nothing wrong with it. But when it comes to making sure you have customers who will continue to renew their contracts, continue to grow and expand with you, and become customer advocates, being a happy customer is just not enough. I've been a part of many discussions with colleagues and customers where they are shocked when they find out a customer of theirs who seemed to be perfectly happy with their services up and left. It's not about being happy. It's about getting the return they expect from the service. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on at Conversica is trying to get at the outcomes and making sure that we have a really solid understanding of our customer goals and where they're driving at and how that impacts their overall business goals. As the old saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there. And this is exactly what happens with many customer success managers. In the absence of having clear goals and destinations, they're aimlessly working very hard. And the customer success manager could have not been coached at how to ask those questions, asking the customers how they define success. And they may not be tracking the details or collecting the benchmarking data. It's really important to engage with a customer on the right path and think about where their goals are, if there are other risk factors that may be coming into play. And the only way that you do that is really keeping an eye on the company and the business and ensuring that you have a good understanding of your client and customer base. It could be anything that could happen, a change in champion, the company's restructuring, they've been acquired. And if you're not on the pulse of what's happening with your customers, it can really result in unexpected churn. And then if you think about some of the missed expansions opportunities, a lot of it is really thinking about having your customer success managers ask those questions around how are things going in the business? Where are your other opportunities? Listening for key things in those conversations that may trigger growth for your company, or thinking about another way that they may be able to use your service or product. A lot of those can be missed if you're not asking the right questions of your customers and not paying attention. So I want to take some time now to transition to our experts at Oracle. Sunny's discussed with you why customer success is so important, and I addressed some of the challenges that we've all experienced in our roles in customer success. But I'm now really excited to talk with Victoria and Kay about how they're solving these challenges at Oracle and delivering these strong experiences for their customers. So Victoria and Kay, really excited to have you here today. Victoria, I'd like to start with you. To get us started, can you tell us a little bit more about your roles at Oracle?
Right, so Kay and myself, we're both a part of the same team. We call Digital Customer Experience Team. We are looking at how we can address a large population of customers with pretty much the same services as any customer success management organization would. So every customer needs to be onboarded. Every customer needs to have help adapting services, and customers who have declining use will need some help and maybe some retention activities. But one thing to do it for the customers who are large, spending a lot, and assigning a human resource to them. It's another thing to address a very large volume of customers, each spending very little bit, but who requires pretty much the same attention. And this is what my team is focusing on at the moment. How can we do that? How can we achieve that? How can we drive customer business outcomes in pretty much the same way, but then using every type of automation that's available to us?
Thanks, Victoria. Can you talk a little bit about some of your high-level goals?
Well, our high-level goals is really, first of all, touching every customer in our population to make sure that the services we provide are available to every one of them, and we're talking about very large volume. We're looking at the way we move the needle within that population, looking at customers using our services more. Churn rate is improving, let's suppose. And the customer experience is positive, for which we try to collect feedback and customer satisfaction and net promoter score surveys to get a sense whether or not customer getting valuable services from us.
That's really helpful. And then in terms of some of the customer details, what industries of customers are you working with, or can you give us a sense of some of the volume that you're trying to engage with?
Right. So we're talking about thousands, and the industries are really, it's very heterogeneous population, with a little bit of IT companies being a little bit heavily represented. And there is only one thing in common that those companies have. Okay, they are cloud companies, and then they spend low amounts on cloud with Oracle. Everything else, every walk of life, every industry, customers, all kinds of customers.
Great, thanks, Victoria. So based on some of those goals and priorities that Victoria outlined, Kay, I want to talk a little bit about some of the conversations we've had in the past. You've mentioned how important the long tail is for you and your customer success. So how are you ensuring that no customer is left without customer engagement and that you're able to provide the best service experience?
Yeah, I think really what our biggest focus is making sure that we kind of automate a lot of what we're doing. Kind of teaming up with Conversica has been excellent at helping us, as you quite rightly said, Erica, having an extended arm of your CSM team. So our biggest focus right now has been to say, okay, let's look at automation, and let's look at the data, and let's develop a kind of data-driven approach to manage such a large number of accounts. As Victoria mentioned, we have a large number of accounts. We want to make sure that we do engage with them, even if it's a kind of very kind of low-touch customer care model.
That's great. And so with that automation, can you kind of go into a little bit of what you're doing to nurture those customers, Kay?
Yeah, so we again kind of looked at our customer base. We looked at the kind of the journey that everyone should know in their own industry and in their own kind of customer base. That, what are the typical average first time to spend kind of days, or how long does it take for us internally to align a CSM with a customer? What are those kind of, metrics that happen internally? And what we wanted to do is kind of focus on shortening that. So that's one hand of it, like I said, so using the data to connect the dots and to automate a lot of what we're doing. Secondly, when we now have decided, okay, well, this is the general customer journey, it goes in this kind of trend or in this notion, we then created a lot of content to help us. What was really important to us is to be able to do things at scale. So a lot of, webinars that we also host, content repository, guides, labs, recordings, a lot of it had to be able to be something that we do at scale, but making sure that, like you said, nurturing monitoring those customers, so making sure that at every time, however often that might be, we're touching them, we're saying hello, we're checking in to see how things are. We have kind of, the basic model when it comes to the kind of standardized onboarding approach to make sure that we connect with them sooner than we would in a manual sense. But then also making sure that every so often we're delivering them some content or some messaging that would be relevant to where they sit in the life cycle.
That's great. And it's so important, as you say, right, to get engaged with those customers regularly, and also not only engaging with them, but engaging with them and providing value. So providing some content that they're interested in, getting at the right content in the right moment. I think that's really important. And I think there's one thing there that you said that I just want to echo, because I think that that's really important too. And it's getting to your customers before they're expecting to hear from you. I think being there in advance makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
that's great. Cool. So Victoria, I want to ask you if you've gotten customer feedback to gauge the quality of customer experience and how this initiative is really complementing what the customer success team is doing at Oracle.
Well, this is an excellent question. Actually, two questions cover the both sides of that we have to balance. We need to make sure that we provide an excellent customer experience to a segment where the customer was pretty much left to their own devices, allowed to self-service, okay? But on the other hand, we need to also manage our own internal business side of things, right? So the reason for existing also within the business needs to be obvious to our executives, for example. So from the customer perspective, we receive an amazing feedback just for the by the virtue of the fact that they haven't spoken to anybody, and suddenly we, using Conversica, reaching out to them, they're able to have a conversation with us, tell us about their problems, we help them, and then they thank us for reaching out to begin with, and then they also thank us very much for helping them with their problems and addressing their issues like we would any other customer. While they do realize that they are very small part of our business, they are very grateful and providing us with a lot of detailed feedback. They are happy to fill out surveys. They're happy to provide us advice on how to improve our services, which is also extremely important feedback from the field. As far as how this initiative complements what CSM team is doing, now from the business perspective, CSMs are allowed time, okay, to prioritize their activities where the return on investment on their activities is the greatest, okay, while they're sure that their entire customer population will be covered with appropriate level of customer success management services in order to make sure that the customer experience is great, but also to make sure that we detect those customers who want to talk to us further and grow with us and expand their services and expand their footprint with us.
Yeah, that's so important. And I love that that's the track that you're doing, is really prioritizing some of those higher value exchanges with your CSMs and being able to automate lower exchanges. That's awesome. Kay, what are you doing to mitigate churn? How is that process going for you?
It's been good. It's been interesting. So I think there's 101 things you could do around mitigating churn. I think the first thing that we've done was really focused on a kind of short, medium, and long-term strategy. I'm going to repeat this line a few times today, Erica, but it is always kind of looking at the data, looking at the trends, looking at the patterns, looking at the averages in your customer base, and then figuring out how to trigger those conversations or trigger that timely action to kind of step in and understand, why has there been a reduction in usage, or why have they switched off a workload, or what is it that the customer is doing. I think the key pointer here and the key thing that's helped us mitigate some of the churn, even though we are at the semi-early stages, is that we're attempting to bring a customer into dialogue with us, right? So that's something that hasn't happened before. We've got thousands of customers, larger ones, and then the smaller scale ones. But in this kind of situation, we're now saying, hey, we want to talk to you, we want to help you, we want to reach out to you, and making sure we do that in a timely experience. I think that also helps in the let's say our reputation. You know, it is inevitable that we do lose some customers, unfortunately, but I think if we're able to reach out to them, even if it is a situation where they're saying, okay, we want to close our account, we want to leave, at least we then are helping smooth out that process, right? It's not that they're going on, you know, self-service and figuring out how to close their account, that someone is still there, even at that last, you know, process to go in and help, you know, help them, or at least talk to them at the right time. So that's one of the biggest things for us right now in terms of mitigating churn.
Yeah, that's really great. And I know it would be nice if we got to a point where no customers churned, right? But it sounds like you're using all the right data and tools, exactly, to really ensure that you're intervening when you need to and having those conversations before customers even contemplating anything. We know that you recently launched a new approach to engage with the high volume and long tail, and Victoria spoke about this a little bit as well with your customers. But Kay, can you give us some details about how this initiative is performing?
Yeah, me and Victoria have been super happy, which is why we'll stay up late and join this webinar. But yeah, no, it's been great. It's been really kind of amazing at how we've been able to do things at such a large scale. You know, that was, I guess, our biggest problem, was that we have so many customers and how can we talk to everyone? So, you know, teaming up with Conversica has definitely been great to help us manage large volumes and engage with customers. The whole point that I mentioned again about, you know, using the data to trigger what we're doing, that's been great as well, because we're able to talk to customers a lot sooner than we would have. We've done a few of these activities before, and we've done them manually. And I am one of the, let's say, virtual assistants. And we were just saying how virtual me is more popular than the real me. So we've seen a lot more interactions from customers, a lot more engagements, a lot more feedback. One of the things that I think Victoria was saying, which we both love, is that, you know, customers are busy. We can't forget that they've got a ton of emails, meetings, phone calls, and, you know, kids and everything flying around. But I think with Conversica, with any kind of email tool or email channel, the threshold for someone to engage with you or engage back is really low. So it's definitely been a better form of communicating with customers, because, you know, sometimes your phone calls someone as a CSM. I was a CSM as well, and you'd call them, they don't answer, you try and call back, or schedules don't match. But, you know, using an email, 1, 2, 3 emails, you engage, they reply. If they don't, then you've got Conversica to follow up. So it's definitely been really great to help us, you know, move forward in with those long tail of accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is true, right? Like with the assistants, they're so persistent, whereas humans tend to give up after a certain amount of time, right? You can't catch someone, you're like, oh, this just isn't working. I feel like I should spend my energy on people that will respond, which is a natural human behavior. And so that's such a good point. Victoria, this is a big, broad question, so I can piece it down a little bit more, but what does the future look like for Oracle and your team? Where are you going?
Well, we want to reap the fruits of what we have started. What we have started now, we see as phase 1 and 2. We're looking at become a lot better with data analysis. So everything that we're doing with the long tail or the large volume, that only grows. It doesn't really get smaller. We need to become much better with the data analysis to make sure that we stay relevant. I think when you have an interaction like this, using automation, using a virtual assistant, and then using a virtual digital nurture for long tail customers, the one thing you have to be is relevant. Because as soon as you become less relevant, you end up in a trash bin, so to speak. So our idea is to take a look at the data, at various types of data that's available to us, and using machine learning and data analysis to try to figure out what journey is the customer on, what is the business outcome that the customer is trying to get without ever having to talk to this customer. And we have some ideas on how to do that. Let's see if it works. So this is in the short term. In the long term, we're hoping to continuously manage ever larger volumes of customers and make sure that our churn is low and our outcome is high.
Yeah, I think that's really great. One of the things that I was really impressed by that you mentioned the last time we spoke is just some of the work that you're doing around collecting customer insights. And I think that that really plays into some of the data collection you mentioned before. But I think it really helps with personalizing that experience and that nurture and really understanding where your customers are. It's really, really impactful. And I just have to say, like, I'm so impressed with Victoria and Kay and Oracle, really, like, your digital customer experience evolution. You guys are taking things so far and really bringing them to the next level. And it's really exciting to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we've got quite a bit of time here for some additional questions. So at this time, I'd like to invite the audience to submit any questions, and I can turn it over to Shanice to see if we've got some questions from the audience.
Great stuff. Really fascinating insights there. I think we've covered a lot of ground. The points that really sort of jumped out to me is around the fact that customer success teams really are and can be profit-generating centers. Looking at the difference that Sunny was mentioning in regards to retaining a customer and going out and searching for a new one, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And the task that customer success managers have, they can't do that alone in terms of making sure that they are keeping customers warm. So it's not just the effect of, like we chatted about in the first installment of this webinar, that, you know, as soon as renewal comes up, oh, sorry, it's us again. You forgot that you had this policy with us or this product with us, but it's time for you to give us some more money. It's that keeping that kind of that feel of genuine care. You know, if you check in with someone, say if it's a family member or a friend, if you're checking in with them constantly, it gives that impression, it conveys that they genuinely care about you. And that's the same with brand to customer. If there is that genuine care for, are you getting value out of what you have with us? How can we help you? What is really troubling you? Then that will build that rapport, that trust, that loyalty, and that want from the customer to stay with you, because there's a lot of choice out there. They can churn, they can switch, and like we did see in this session, a lot of times customers might not be overt about their intention to churn or the reason why they've churned and why they've left. So you've got to be tuned into those signals. You've got to be leaning on automation like you guys are doing at Oracle in order to make sure that your customer success managers are able to do what they do best and can shine. But you've got that tech there to step in, to be that persistent assistant. I love that as well. And so that you're giving this effect to the customer that you're there, you care about the value they're getting from you, and you are there to make sure that they have a great journey and frictionless one at that. So as we've mentioned, it's time to go through some of your questions. We've got a couple that are trickling through, so thank you to those of you who have already entered in your questions for the panel today. But please do enter in any questions you have via the chat box. Click that submit button and we'll get to as many questions as we can. We can't promise we'll get to all of them, unfortunately, but what we will do is if we don't get to your question, we will circle back after the session and make sure that you do get some insight to your point. So don't let time put you off. Any thoughts and feelings and anything that you'd like to have sort of addressed by our panel, do enter those in your chat boxes and we'll get to as many as we can. Okay, so we've got a question here for either Erica or Sunny. So it's asking, apart from English, what other languages does your platform support? And I think this question taps into the element that we're seeing, you know, a lot of need for personalization. There's a stat, I can't quite remember the number, so I won't quote it, but there's a high level of conversion with customers if you engage with them in their language of choice. So, you know, it's quite important that there are different offerings in terms of languages. So apart from English, what other languages does your platform support with Conversica?
Erica, would you like me to start with answering? You know,
yeah,
maybe I could start. So in terms of language, we provide multilingual support. In addition to English, currently we support Spanish, German, French, Portuguese, and Japanese. And you know, one of the things I should also mention is that we have the capability, if a customer started a conversation with an AI assistant in English and then switched to another language, say Spanish, for example, the AI assistant can understand and accommodate that, can support the conversation that started in English and then, moving to a different language. It can also do that. So in addition to providing the multilingual support, the languages I talked about. Erica, anything I missed you want to add?
No, I mean, I think you've covered most of it. The only thing I will say is our language capability is expanding every day. The more we have global customers and their needs are shifting, we are obviously making those changes to meet our demands of our customers.
Perfect.
And that's quite impressive, the switch element that you mentioned there, Sunny, because I'm sure for some tech that might be enough to kind of send it over the edge. So that's very helpful. And one thing that comes up quite a lot in my conversations with CX practitioners and the challenges that they're really trying to overcome in terms of upgrading customer journeys and looking at how tech can help them is integration. So firstly, in terms of integration with existing tech in the tech stack, but then also in terms of integration in the culture and onboarding. So this next question from the audience definitely taps into that. So what are some of the integrations that Conversica offers out of the box?
Well, I could start. I mean, so considering we provide support for the entire revenue cycle, we have integration with your top CRM solutions, your marketing automation platforms. For example, some of these solutions would be, for example, Salesforce, Marketo, Adobe Marketo, HubSpot, Pardot, Microsoft Dynamics. So just mainly the major marketing automation platforms and CRM solutions. We provide integration with both Conversica APIs and third-party APIs. We also have integration with many industry-specific solutions. For example, for the automotive industry, we integrate with really well-known solutions for that industry, DealerSocket, Auto Alert, and others. Similarly, we have support for other integration for other industry solutions as well. Erica, anything you want to add?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add here is as we see working with customers, some of their tech stacks expanding, account-based marketing, thinking about like 6 Sense and some of those other platforms that now exist, we're doing a lot of work to really be able to integrate with other platforms as well. And so that's on our roadmap for the coming quarters, just thinking about extending our play beyond CRMs and marketing automation systems and data management systems.
Yeah, that's an important point. I mean, account-based marketing, account-based sales is becoming so important. And integration with some of these ABM solutions is going to be, it's definitely on our roadmap, and we are working on that. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, well, and I would also say that it kind of touches on what Victoria and Kay were talking about as well, just around personalization and being able to really give those customers a unique experience and really complement some of the automation and some of the human outreach.
Yep, exactly.
So that interoperability is just going to keep growing as you move forward, which is a great mindset to have. So we've got time for a couple more questions. So do keep on entering in any questions that you have in the chat box. Make sure you click submit as well, otherwise your messages won't reach us, and that would be a shame. So do make sure that you send those across, and we'll get our expert panel here to give you the best insights as possible. All right. So we've got another question here in regards to the platform that you guys provide at Conversica, asking about whether there is the ability to edit conversations at all.
You want to take this, Erica?
Sure, I can start with us. So we do have the ability to edit conversations. Like Kay and Victoria talked about, a lot of their decisions are based on data, and we do the same thing at Conversica. We look to see which conversations are going to give or yield the best results, but we also give our customers the ability to edit conversations through our conversation editor so that they can really combine what we know and our insights around benchmarking data with what they know about their customers and their specific data related to their company and their business and their customers. And it's kind of great because we can marry the two by giving the insights to our customers, and then they in turn can edit the conversations in a way that takes into account data from all sides.
Great. So very intuitive, and it can look to plug into different sources. And I think that kind of leads into what we were saying about listening to customer signals. If there's a certain word used that might insinuate or imply frustration, or anything that you found, or maybe a friction point in customer journeys, it might flag up an insight where it would give a workaround and such to best help the customer. All right. So we are on our final question here from the audience. It's regarding the next installment of this series. So it's asking here in regards to when that is. So that is going to be next week. It's on the 30th of March at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and it's going to be part of the customer self-service online event. So Sunny, do you want to give any flavor in terms of the focus of that webinar and what people can expect?
Yeah, it's the way this three-part webinar series is structured. It's in the first one we talked about some of the challenges and how some of these challenges can be solved with Conversica solution. Today, what happened is we actually had a customer talk about how they are solving some of these challenges, and then the third webinar is mostly for the executive audience and return on investment, the value. Like, I think, if I remember correctly, the title of that webinar is why customer success need a seat at the executive table, or something along that line, speaking from memory. And it's really helping the upper management, how you make a business case for the upper management. How do you help understand that why this organization is so important for your success, and how you help this, because helping this organization be successful will make your organization successful in the long run. So we have our Chief Customer Officer, Brian Kaminsky, will be talking to an exciting guest speaker, who is also an executive and leader in customer success. So I'm very excited for that webinar. Great speakers, subject matter experts, and as you said, that's happening on March 30th at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Great. A super hot topic at the minute, as you mentioned, ROI for CX, with all the disruption that the pandemic has brought in, and budgets are tightening and resources are short. So in order to make sure that your customer journeys have the best tech, have the best initiatives behind them, you're going to need to make sure that you're able to get that buy-in, and also so that you can tap into channels such as self-service, which are great for deflecting volume, and also sort of empowering customers to take charge of their own experiences, helps give them 24/7 access to services that they might require. So yeah, really, really great topic. So definitely tune into that session. All right. So that's all we have time for today. So as mentioned before, if your question hasn't been addressed, don't worry, we have your details, so you'll be contacted by the team after the fact today. And if you'd like to rewatch this presentation or share with your colleagues, you'll be receiving a link to watch this session on demand shortly. So make sure you share that with anybody that wasn't able to make it, or maybe you hadn't heard of the session taking place today. It was great to see how a customer, a brand out there is actually applying and getting great value out of Conversica's technology. So do also let us know of what you thought of the session in the chat box at the bottom, because it'd be great to hear your thoughts. Okay, so thanks everyone for attending. As we mentioned, the final session of the Your Time to Shine series is taking place on the 30th of March. A big thank you to our expert panel today. A lot of fascinating food for thought for us to take away with us today. And that concludes today's presentation.